So that's what I was plugging in, that amount at this time, because there was no deposit. Design was done prior to any kind of movement of money.
And changes, you're saying that there would be an additional charge?
Where are you?
Under additional and excluded services.
It would just be on a time, hourly basis. If if we're having to redo the design, just the time it takes me to redevelop the design.
Is this the final design?
This is the.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the final design, short of many details, the water feature and planting details. Well, I think it's all in here somewhere.
Perennial ground cover counts.
Yeah.
Perennial,
yeah.
Right. Right. It's under attachment B, number 3. That is what needs to still happen, is all those details. Detailed drawings for construction, basically, and detailed notes, construction notes for the gardens, perennial irrigation plan, any lighting if we decide to go with that, and I think we'll propose that. Sitting area, benches, planting plans. So, actual perennial planting plan of the neighborhood gardens, which is, I'm actually going to work on the hardscape first, with Craig, the water feature, because we know we're not going to plant perennials until the spring, so that's not critical. Although I'm moving forward with all aspects of that number 3.
I'd like to cross out the summer of 2012.
Okay.
We're not going to go that
Right.
long.
I would love it if we didn't go that far.
Going to be finished in the spring. And what dates are you looking at for the finished product in the spring?
As soon as we can plant, because
June 15th.
Right.
Drop dead date.
June 15th, the latest?
You like that date?
No.
Okay.
Right, because if we're prepared to do everything but plant, we're in great shape. We can get in as soon as we can.
I think we can certainly get, again, going back to my discussion about trees and shrubs, prepare areas, hardscapes, water features, stone walls, everything that can fit into the budget that's not necessarily soft material can certainly be accomplished this fall.
Where do you see the major expense? Is it in the hard crust, stone walls and that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. And the water feature, I think, is probably the highest.
Not actually putting numbers to it as of yet. I think you're actually going to see some fairly balanced numbers between hardscapes, water features, landscape plant material, and then supporting irrigation as well. Irrigation will be the smaller of all those 4 categories.
Okay. I'm sorry, you got some more questions? Yeah. Anybody from general public got any comment? Yes, Representative Knox.
I was late, I apologize. Water feature, what are you talking about with water features? What is that?
I've designed something that's sort of designed to look like a river, small riverbed, so that when it's dry, it's still interesting to look at. But it has water being emitted from the top of it, or top meaning one end of the garden. And actually, we have talked about elevating it slightly so that it really looks like it's moving downhill. The path that we're adding to the garden goes through it, and with some railings there, so essentially the residents can't walk to it in any place because they might stumble into it. So so it's for the sound, and touching the water is a little difficult because it's not sort of up at your waist height like just a bird bath or something like that. So or a fountain. So
it's not going to be anything deep.
Right, it's not deep, but it's just kind of the sound of water, and it could be on a timer as well, so it runs at a certain time. We've also talked about motorizing and using maybe some solar cells. I'm not sure if that's possible. But it's also recycling its own water, And I think Craig said that the water comes directly from the irrigation system?
It can, yep. Have an automatic feed that maintains the level it needs to be maintained at for functionability.
Right, so it's recirculating, and it's...
Cost-wise, how much are we talking about as a cost item, this water feature?
It hasn't been costed yet, but off the cuff, I would say you'd probably be anywhere from 10 to 15,000, somewhere in there per feature. Possibly more, depends on how detailed it's going to be. That would certainly be a baseline, though.
Mr. Babson, Representative Babson.
Why can't some of this waterfall and brook and such be gravity fed? You wouldn't have a closed system, obviously, but why couldn't it be? We're 500 feet up in the air with our reservoir. I would think that you could just gravity feed it through there and out the other end. Certainly not going to be enough water that it's going to drain the tank.
I guess I'm not familiar enough with what's available to probably comment on that, except that it seems like it would be not very sustainable as far as the use of the water.
Well, it wouldn't be a closed system, that's for sure.
Right.
How big is this?
When you do a water feature, it's the recirculating system is based upon low pressure, sort of high volume, if you will, like a septic system would be. Same kind of pump. In fact, a lot of the features that we use exactly a septic system pump with a tank. That's so it's a pondless feature, if you will. I can't say that I've personally constructed a gravity-fed water feature. It would be something new. I think running that, like drawing water out of a lake and putting it up into a gravity-type system. I've done that before, yes, several times, but not in an environment like this.
Thank you.
I'm taken back a little bit. $10,000 for a water feature. I would hope that it would be half that amount, or designed $4,000 or $5,000 and not $10,000 to $12,000.
How big is
I
this?
think that's getting a little.
Well, I think it's there's a lot more that goes into a water feature, and granted, we haven't worked details out, but
Make it simpler. Let's not make it complicated. Let's make it simple and keep the costs down.
where in your eyes would you like to see the primary part of your budget spent?
On the entranceway and on those two garden areas.
Okay. So from a prioritization standpoint.
And keep in mind now, we have a 501c3 that will be generating some money. Hopefully, they can play a part of some of it. They don't have 10,000 to put into a water feature, I'm sure.
Dorothy, you asked how big it is. The size is it hasn't been designed to the details, but it can be somewhere between 10 and 20 feet, or somewhere in between, because it's meant to sort of look like it's running. But I think we need to, and that's where I'm going next, is to go ahead and create that detail, and so we can cost it out, and then present it and look at some alterations or how we can make it work. But I think once we really need to cost out the entire plan and include that as part of it. Otherwise, we're just looking and thinking, oh, 10,000, that sounds like a lot, but maybe in terms of the entire plan,
It is a lot.
it's...
Go ahead, Maureen.
I have a water feature in my garden. It's a cement wheel. It has a spout that comes at the top, so that it's a shallow depression and it just recirculates.
Similar to the one that's in the Kirkwood Gardens? Kirkwood Gardens, is that Squam Lake Science Center, Natural Science Center, up in Holderness?
Yes, but I
There's-
haven't been there in a long time. But it's
Stone?
Yeah, there's a gristmill stone.
Yes,
That
yes.
sets in a stone bed, if you will, where all the mechanicals would be, and then the water basically comes up out of the center of the gristmill. Yeah. Yeah, it's neat. It certainly doesn't, this is more Carroll's gig as far as the design goes. We construct and build, so we can do anything that, a lot of the things is, maybe budget driven, and where the budget goes will dictate how much detail and what the design actually does.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that's one option I think we might want to look at it. Water features are going to be that expensive.
And the more complicated the water feature is at times, the more maintenance that goes along with it.
Because that
Keeping
wheel,
it-
that wheel
keeping
too
it
is,
clean.
it's this deep, so that a resident bending over, I mean, they don't have to go that far, too, as opposed to, remember, I was here for your presentation when you were talking about it being low enough that they could actually walk into.
Yeah, that's just a tricky thing, because they'd have to have railings, I would assume, to walk in, correct?
I don't think they wanted railings out there,
Um,
right?
I mean, the water feature can, this just, range is huge of what it could be. So actually, maybe
Keep
what...
it simple, keep the expense down,
Not walking in it.
provide the function that we want,
Because so you
hearing
get
the
the sound
water,
of the
seeing the water.
Yeah, but just sight and sound.
But the walking in, that's something you would like. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
difficult thing to add on to something.
I don't think Sandy would like that.
No, that, I,
Right.
that, I was saying that they didn't want that.
Right.
You were concerned about
Right.
them walking into it.
So that's why we decided to basically plant up to the water feature except for where they would walk through it with a railing, right? And
When you
so-
say through it, you mean more like by it.
By it.
Yeah,
next to
exactly,
it.
exactly, next to it, yes.
Yes, Damon?
How aware was the delegation of this plan, and where's the money for, is this just coming out of general landscaping?
Yes.
But it seems like this is the kind of project that would be upsetting to some representatives.
It was in the budget and it was approved by the delegation way back when we started. Yes, Mr. Babson?
Yeah, I take exception to that, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it was in the budget, but there was nothing that spelled out we'd be putting in $10,000 waterfalls.
We're not going to be putting in $10,000
That's
water.
what this young lady just said, at 10 to 15 grand.
Well, did you hear what I said?
Yeah, make it a little smaller stream.
Simple,
I disagree
less
with you,
maintenance.
Dave. I don't think the delegation was made aware of the landscaping is there, and I think people thought it would be for plants and trees and lawns and probably paving. But I don't believe they thought in their wildest imagination that we'd be paying for high-priced water functions.
And the Friends of Mountain View will contribute, but we never know what kind of money we're gonna get. So
Yeah.
you can't count on, I mean, we only have, what, $600 right now?
Yep.
And just if I can add to that.
Go ahead.
You know, your reference to us, we've already gone down a whole road about, the Friends of Mountain View picking up costs regarding the building of a nursing home, and we don't want it to continue that sense that, well, maybe you... we have a lot of things that we want to do, need to be done, and we don't need any additional things.
Is the general feeling we don't need a water,
That would be
garden area?
my personal feeling.
Well, I'll disagree with that. I think a small, what I was talking about, that wheel, it's this big, this deep, and it provides the same sight, sound. I mean, it is a nice little feature. You don't need a waterfall, you don't need you don't need $10,000 to $15,000 worth of that. I don't know how much, I can't remember how much I paid for it. But
1,000 or less?
yeah, way
Yes.
less.
Just to kind of add to Representative Babson's comments, I don't think we need any lightning rods that will attract more attention about cost items, and I don't want this, I didn't bring it up to make it so, but I think it needed to be discussed, and I think that needs to be kept in mind, costs. You haven't made reference to keeping costs down, so that's certainly, we need to certainly keep that in mind in terms of this aspect of what we're doing here.
Well, we got a pretty darn nice-looking garden area out in front of our present nursing home, and that didn't cost $10,000, the total of it. Maybe, and I don't know that for sure because it was privately done. The individual put money into it for the walls and the asphalt. I think we put in maybe half the amount for the asphalt pathways. But I don't believe the whole area